All right.
Down to 9. Klein can't dribble himself free. He's going to have to take a long one. Klein, step back, 3 for the tie. Oh! He's done it again!
They get it to him. More in space. A burst of speed. A first down for Purdue. He's still going. More. Cuts back. Touchdown!
All like that.
Awesome. Well, what an awesome intro. Brand new intro done by yours truly, the 50 Ghost, or AKA Chris. Welcome back, everybody, to the Boiler Express podcast. This is actually episode 10, so kind of a milestone for us as we progress on in our time as a podcast and a group. So we've got a really great episode for you today. We're going to be talking basketball, kind of a preview, and we've got our normal crew here. We've got myself, Damon, or the Ultimate Boiler. Below me, we've got Big Ten Russ. We've got Chris, your 50 Ghost, right next to me. Frank, the Stat Tank, and special guest, two-time All Big Ten defensive team of the year, and Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year in 2015-16, Raphael Davis. We are super pumped to have you, Raphael. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I look forward to talking to you guys.
Absolutely. And so, like I said, we're going to talk basketball. We've each got a few questions for Ray, and then we're going to wrap up with him, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Iowa. So we've got a little bit of both football and basketball tonight, and so hopefully you guys enjoy. So tonight, like I said, we've got some questions for Ray D. Part of that being we're just each going to have a few questions to ask him, and we're going to start with Frank. So Frank, take it away.
Hey, Ray, we really appreciate you joining again. And, I was a season ticket holder through a lot of the time that you were playing for Purdue. One thing that kind of comes to mind when I think about you is I think it was 2014, 2015 season. We kind of had some tough losses, home losses to North Florida, home loss to Gardner-Webb. And I think it was you who kind of helped turn things around. I think you called a players-only meeting and kind of got things kickstarted. Could you kind of talk us through that and what that was like for you?
Yeah, we lost to we lost to Gardner like December 23rd, and we got to go home, but then we had to come back the same like Christmas night. And I think we practiced or something like that. December, I don't know for sure. So I would say December 26th, and I think opener was like that's when we started playing like right around New Year's. We want to play Minnesota, and like those few days was the hardest days probably in Purdue, I would say. And just you could feel like cause we were in the league, and you could we went North Florida at Notre Dame, I think in the Crossroads, and then it was Gardner-Webb at home. Get that feeling again of the year prior, and your newer guys didn't know what that felt like, and they were freshmen, so they just kind of the practices were tough, which means, and it's over Christmas break, so they get together just naturally because it's Christmas break, nobody's on campus, and then when practice is hard, you just go for a while after practice, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where together before after practice, and it's nothing real. I don't know if or anything like that, but it's you just have some choice words, and everybody you just make sure and it was more or less just a conversation. I don't know if I would call it a players meeting. Everybody gets to say so. So this is more like a dictatorship meeting. And season could go one or two ways at that moment. And I think during those like it was sick, man. Like if we were, because we were about to play it was Dre Hollins, and at that point in the season, we had practice, and I don't know who came up with this, but he was the one on the guards end. And if you went for a pump fake, they weren't brothers, but one of the Hollins, they like to do pump fake. One of them like to do pump fake. So if you went for a run to the top of Mackey and come back, if you went for
that sounds brutal.
If you went for a jab step, if you just like flinched a little bit, you have to recover or just you have to run to the top of Mackey.
Oof.
If you missed, if you turn the ball, Mackey, you miss a free throw, top of Mackey. You airball a jump shot, top of Mackey. You miss it was like one of the like sickest days you're gonna have. And there's no during Christmas break. You could practice for however long you want to. So that's great for the young guys to go through that, for the older guys to start to feel that. But then also, like Vince really stepped up in that moment. Isaac really turned the corner in those days. And Big Ten season, we win a few, and we get going. And then after that, I think we win Minnesota first. I think we went to Penn State or something. We were losing, and that's the game where they foul up. We get a JO tip. JO misses the free throw. We tip it to Kendall, makes it 3 in the corner. We end up winning it. But at that halftime, I would say more than the meeting, I guess, break. The halftime of that Penn State game was like the real coming Purdue basketball that year. That was like if I would say if there was a moment, like Payne didn't really have to say a word. Like he came in just like really going off on everybody, and it kind of was like we kind of everything went wrong, and that was the changing point.
That's awesome. Like that's just
that's
interesting hearing that.
Yeah.
That's some terrific insight. And I remember that Minnesota game. Again, I was a season ticket holder then, and I remember it. You all were down at halftime, I think by double digits, and it looked like a different team came out in that second half. Like you all were like just pure business, no funny business. It was really impressive, and that was kind of a monumental season, I thought, and it's really really cool to get your take on what actually went down there. And another thing, I think it was the previous season before. A moment that stands out for me, again, when I was a season ticket holder, Michigan had come to town. I think you were guarding Karis LeVert, and you actually got a 5-second count, which I believe has been done away with since. But I was wondering if you could kind of talk about that and how you went about that and what that meant for you. I know that was a big moment for you.
No,
so you could talk about that. That'd be great.
That was the same season. 2000. That was the year I won defensive player of the year. Then we hadn't beat Michigan since I've been at Purdue. The year before, in my freshman year, was when they came into Mackey. They were like top 5 on the buzzer beater when G-Rob hit the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we went to, I think they were still ranked. We had a chance. Like we were right there with them at halftime, and like they just couldn't beat Michigan really. And also going into that year, like at that it was saying that he's gonna be defensive player that year. So going into that year, Coach Brantley Coach Brantley's still there. Coach Brantley would always say he would always just pick with me and just be like, yo, or who's gonna guard. He would say like guys like Karis LeVert, here the freshman, he'd be talking about D'Angelo Russell going into Ohio State. He would, because that year, real guards oriented league. If you just go down the list and you go Trimble in Maryland, you go Yogi Ferrell and James Blackman at IU, Denzel Valentine, Paris LeVert, Fran Petway, Illinois had Wisconsin, Sam Decker, and
everybody had guard.
Yeah,
and it was they say he would always say, like, if we got a freshman guarding those dudes, it's gonna be tough. If y'all remember to start that season, we started in a 2-3 zone. Like everybody ran a 2-3. Why don't they do this, do that? We actually did it. We had the zone coach that taught how to run Syracuse's 2-3. Came in and spent like a week with us running it. With Maui, we ran it all that in the exhibition in the first couple games. We did it against Maui, and they just Bruce Weber tore it up.
It was a wrap.
And like Marcus was like, and like I talked to Coach Weber because Coach Weber's with the Big Ten Network now. Like, he said Coach Katie was so sad to see us play a 2-3 zone, and he said like, but we and for being an older guy, being a leader, not my bad, but it was kind of like a pride thing. It was kind of like when Louis, he would call and make fun of us for running the 2-3. So when you get certain guys coming into ties that you understand what type of name they have, it just was more like a guys, not Karis LeVert specifically, but Michigan guys could chatter a little bit, especially it was like certain things you remember, and we needed that game. It was a big game. I think it was a Saturday. Yeah, this was one of those things where I just proved to not just myself but my teammates was that like but no, it was that was because I think I had like 7 points that game, but I felt after the game, and that's what type of respect that Purdue fans and for the crowd will give you for those type of moments. Yeah,
I remember. I remember being at that game. That game was crazy.
Yeah, and next year was stupid. I remember I asked Payne. I remember I went to Payne and I said, "Yo, what's the offense now?" He was like, "Ray, you should email the Big Ten." And I didn't understand. If you're dribbling, they're not counting it, but if you're holding it, they're counting it, and it just doesn't. It doesn't translate to the youth level. The referees don't understand it. It's
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
that was such a cool moment. You know, it was an especially cool moment to be there for. You know, I think it speaks volumes about, you know, Purdue and the fans. The fact that the reaction was so huge to that. It was, you know,
yeah.
not something that was called incredibly often, but something that was just so cool to see in person. And I guess fast forwarding to you know, your senior year, again being a season ticket holder, to this day, the best game I've ever seen in Mackey was 2016 when Michigan State came to town. We knew it was going to be a good game. I knew you took particular offense to the fact that you hadn't beaten Michigan State in your career up through that point. You know, I'm sure everyone listening knows you went 5 for 5 from three in that first half. The more impressive thing, at least in my opinion, was what you did on Brid Forbes that night. Coming into that game, he had a 4 for 8 from three, 3 for 3, 6 for 10, 8 for 10. Finished the season at like 49% from three. But that was one of the best, probably the best defensive performance I think I've ever seen in person. Could you talk about that game, maybe what it meant and what you did to lock down Brid Forbes in that one?
I was just more like again, it was just more like it's just like you see like the you just take personal, I guess. Like I get it when guys.
It's a pride
like,
thing.
Some guys that are just kind of like, and Brid Forbes makes a lot of money now. I give it to him. And now, but some guys just come off with a certain toughness that you just want to check sometimes. And I have to remember
I love that.
the very first play of that game. The very first play, I remember this was to set the tone, and this is another thing too. In practice, Paint will give me. I watch film a lot to the point where if a coach like Izzo, this happened in that game, he called out a party where to go. Like I'm saying the play too. So I watch practice a lot. I mean, I watch film.
Nice.
And Paint he would let me bring my own type of way to guard something in a certain scout. Coach Owens had a scout, and he said, "Let's guard this way." But I said, "Let's guard it. Don't work, I go your way. But if it do work, my way." And they gave me that type of play of the game. We did that, and I got on top of one of their screens in his run, and he hit my shoulder and like hit him right in the mouth. And like that moment I had him. And then I knew where Michigan State ran a very offense. I knew what the game meant to it. And I made some shots already. So a bit the energy is going. And at this moment, I felt like I took him out of confinement after that. Because sometimes everybody got a plan until you hit him in the mouth. But
yep. Mike Tyson. That's a Mike Tyson quote.
I think the game was it meant a lot, not just to me, but even thinking Biggie didn't talk that much. Biggie didn't, as a freshman, Biggie didn't say that many words. Committed to Michigan State, and he didn't talk about the game much. Lee didn't say much about it, but you just knew it meant a different. It meant a lot to me because I just at the state was the team I just didn't like. It wasn't IU, it was Michigan State, and I knew at the time he type of emotions. The team, everybody knew. So after that game, we win. That next day, walking on campus, we get a group text, and it's Biggie, and Biggie goes, "Whatever, appreciate Ray. Your bite was finally bigger than your bark." And it was like one of those things where that game meant a lot to everybody in the locker room. And the day after, like, Payne is the type of coach where this is the type of coach Payne is, and I feel good about myself. And, I'm on top of the world. I come into practice the next day. He goes, Ray, we're 6 for 8 in the first half. The game, 8 for 27. And you only had 24 points. And then he just was like, let me for a moment. You know what I mean? So that was a great moment for the program, I would say too. It also showed us what type of level we could play. I think those moments, Michigan game, certain things that happened in Mackey in those last 2 years, I think were really big just in shapes to just kind of like program shifters.
Yeah. Absolutely agree with that. And, it was, talking about you going off and hitting all those threes. It was great to not only see you hit all those, but man, Mackey exploded. Oh my God. That guy,
the place was insane.
Just absolutely insane. I love the clip that I think Purdue Athletics or Purdue Basketball made where they show the clip from like what it sounded like on TV, when they have all the filters on and everything, and then they rewind it and they just play what it sounded like in the arena, and you can't hear anything. It's so inaudible because it's just so loud.
And like
really
in
awesome
those
stuff.
How like in that moment, I don't realize how loud it was in there. Because for me, the loudest it's ever been. I don't know if you guys remember, but when Manny Harris broke Chris Kramer's nose and threw the mask on, and then
came running back out.
And your guy, I was at this clip, like the intro where each one was going off against Ohio State. Like that's when so like a game where I was in stack up to those that I cared about.
Yeah. Well, from a third party perspective, as someone who had season tickets for 3 years, so it would have been your junior year, your senior year, and the year after. That was the loudest I heard it get, was that fifth three. And I'm probably be embarrassed to tell you how many times I've gone back and watched that game, but I know exactly what you mean on that first play that Michigan State ran. I'm surprised they didn't actually call a foul with how physical you were guarding him, but it was very clear that you had watched your film because you just blew up that screen, just completely blew it up.
See, look, I'll tell you, before I'm glad you said that, because before the game, I went to the ref, and I said, the bigs move. Only way I can guard this is if I get physical, and it's going to, because Paint would always say, good decision. You have to make a call. And Michigan State, the way they run, they got 4 bigs normally. They're going to use all the fouls, and then they will run out of bounds on Michigan State play. Their shooters are going to run out of bounds on the baseline. They're not supposed to be able to come back in. So I would tell the ref stuff like that, little things like that before the game. So when it happened, and I think they just let me do whatever. I would foul, grab.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that's awesome. I love hearing those stories from your perspective, and just like those little tidbits that I don't think a lot of us fans hear about is really, really cool. So and kind of piggybacking off of talking about your senior year, in your senior night speech or your senior year speech, you said that it's been a long 8 years because you committed to Purdue as a freshman in high school. So tell us about, that process. What immediately drew you to Purdue, and you had 4 years of being a top, high school player. So what made it to where, nobody else pulled you away from Purdue? Kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I started being recruited. Like, I look back on it, and a IU assistant of mine, and like it just like that's kind of when my recruitment started, just really early, 3 in the 8th grade, whatever. So I was being, I guess, talked to for a lot of different coaches. Will like think like my first, like I used to talk to Calvin Sampson was there. That's how young I was. When you think about like the type of age time, I was in Eric Gordon Sr. Like me and Eric Gordon Jr. went the same elite camp his senior year high school. So that was like I was like way young to what was going on. I was a freshman. It was like I already had 2 years recruited by the game a little, and then with Paint, like that week we had Xavier. I think we had schools lined up, and we committed right when we weren't even home yet. We committed, and I think I always give it to Paint in a sense, the way he treated his guys, the way he treated Lewis Jackson, the way he treated, or like a Robbie Hummel, the way he let them, the way the guys were allowed to be themselves, but also maneuver through Purdue, and then the way he just was honest to the point where I didn't really talk to Coach Paint that much in high school.
Okay.
Just because I believed. I didn't necessarily have to. The guys said with the guys, you know what I mean? Blue Jack and those guys just committed. And it was a thing where Coach Owens, at the time, Coach Owens was the guy that recruited, phenomenal job checking in, talking to me. But I think it just came down to just pure what Paint was doing. This was before the renovations were. This was the old office. No air. There's no Cardinal Court or none of that. But they had the blueprint, and they showed me all of that. They told me what was going to happen, and this like when, right when this was about E20. This would be right. I committed the same year Lou Jack committed. So I think just believing in the program, and then I went to a elite camp, and he told me I could shoot the ball every time I wanted to. So stuff like that. It was always. And then
awesome.
Also, my brother and sister both graduated from IU. I just did not, for some reason, like when I would go see them or take them to college on to Bloomington. I remember one time I threw up in the grocery lot parking lot. It just was something with the town.
Something in the air. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. That's funny. That's awesome. No, really cool. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And just, I'm sure seeing guys like Lou Jack and Robbie kind of get to do their own thing was a really cool thing to see, and probably pretty enticing, especially being told that you can shoot the ball whenever. That's pretty cool. So we're all big fans of Coach Painter here. We love what he's done with the program, how he's molded it and built it and continue to build upon it. So just from your perspective, what was it like playing for Coach Painter? What were some of your, if you had to pick like a couple of favorite moments just with Coach Painter, or, just talking about what it was like to be, to work under him.
I would say some of my greatest moments was the sayings, like the Paint-isms, like, yeah. I mean, like, so the ones that maybe like you, and I don't want to like it may not be okay for today's times, but whatever. He may call a foul against you that you know wasn't a foul, or you may get like he not call it or wait, and he'll just look. Sometimes in life you get blanked. I'm an adult. That's really happens sometimes. Sometimes in life you get screwed over.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, or like some like saying stuff like when
I love that.
Nobody's gonna finish when you're in the career world. Like things like those little things are telling you had like just saying real life stuff around this. And then also he was the type of coach that if you love basketball, he can get Jay. I mean, with Jay Nivey being I think 90th in the country, top 5 draft pick. If he was ranked top 100, he's a draft. You know what I mean? If you want to get there, he can get you. I believe Paint really cares about you as a person and as a man. Like growing you. I think that's something like him and my father. Like I don't think Paint gonna care if you go to the NBA. And I think that's like if you want to go, you guys, he'll put you in position to get there. Beg you to come to the gym and work out. You work in your game, it's fair. If you work on it, if you work on it in practice, you can do it in a game. You know what I mean?
He's going to give you the
if you
tools
show
to be
that
successful.
Exactly, and if you respect it back, it just goes a long way. So I would say true to himself, even now in his NIL transfer portal, he may lose out on a Nigel Pack, he may lose out on another guy, but he's not going that. And I've always respected that type of leadership. And then he just steps out the way. So, but I have nothing but even to this day, kids over to practice, some kids from my hometown, from our nonprofit, and coaching time to come and just speak and talk and learn about the kids. There's 6th, 7th graders. The guys come take a few pictures with them. So it's little things like that just go a long way above.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think you had it was Caleb or Bobby on. I was listening to some of your older your podcast. We were listening to him, and one of them said that they got asked if Painter was different after he got recruited. Like, what's he actually like when you're on the team? And he's like, he's the same guy. He's the same guy. You recruited you. He's this. Yeah. So that was really cool.
I love
and then
that.
I loved hearing you talk about how your relationship's gotten even stronger since you left. Like it doesn't change.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's got even, I would say, since better. It's kind of like when you like sometimes when you grow older a little bit, you realize what they were saying, but especially in the field, I'm especially knowing now that the media game a little bit, seeing a little back in what they go through, it's just nothing. The utmost respect, because it's a jungle in college basketball right now, and to be able to may not appreciate it, but what Payne is being able to do right now, especially building a roster all around the state, if people are going to talk a Purdue way, this way is nothing but just the Purdue way, and it's been nothing but respectable. Because you see, especially one thing that always got with me, Payne would, I mean, even before this NIL stuff, Payne would always say, "This guy's cheating," and he knew that, and everybody knows that. So it's like to know that and still do it your way, and winning your way, losing your way, and losing. He would tell us, "I'm just gonna get fired. I'm here last place in the Big Ten." He said, "I'm just gonna get fired." He said, "I'm gonna get fired." He said, I said, "I will lose every game doing it y'all way." He said, "Y'all way is getting us beat." He said, "But I'll get fired doing it." Here, he did it his way. We go from last place, second, third, whatever place in the Big Ten. And the type of coach he is.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And, you talk about Painter really instilling the Purdue way in you guys, and I love not only just skills on the basketball court, but like you talked about those life skills, knowing that not everything is going to go your way. You're going to get hit in the mouth by life. Things aren't going to always be called in your favor. And so there's a lot of, great things that Payne's done, instilling in all of you guys, it sounds like, from the very beginning, not just in basketball, but in life. And so, in talking about the Purdue way, another thing that is the Purdue way is defense. Defense lives here. You were, 2015, 2016 Defensive Player of the Year. You were all Big Ten defensive team twice. So defense is huge at Purdue. I mean, we have a turnover counter. It's something that, the fans go nuts over turnovers, over 5-second calls, people diving over loose balls. Mackey Arena goes ballistic. So, with all that being said, and your experience on defense and how just you were able to shut people down, last year's team kind of struggled on that side a little bit. That was something that was pretty unique for a Painter team to struggle so as much as they did, I should say, on defense. So what were kind of your takes on, last year's team, and how do you feel like you see it improving this year?
Well, I'm gonna be a little more. They sucked on defense last year. It wasn't a struggle. They sucked. They didn't guard away from the ball. 1 or 2 screens, it was over with. If you just ran off of a down screen and then another screen, you got an open shot, it felt like. So I mean, watching, it was a lot of and they had great talent, but I think they're I would say their defensive production didn't match their defensive talent. When you what they could do, I think they were better defensively than what they showed. I think they had guys that knew they would a certain amount of minutes no matter what. Once you get to the point, and no matter what, those certain guys going to do whatever they want, in a sense. Yeah. So I know you're of a hooper. That's just the nature of the game. You just you take something when you got guys that aren't giving maximum effort defensively every play, especially it just bleeds down to the rest of the team. Because there's no reason Eric, the way he finished the season defensively, when he's a leader. Travion could have been better on ball screen, been better away from the ball. Sasha could have been better away from the ball. It just was things that have anybody in there telling them let's lock up. That's what I said about last year's team. You kind of need somebody. Sometimes you need a Kramer. You need somebody that's just I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna play deep. And I mean, you had no jail guys growing. You had, and I think Purdue fans also, because you think about, I think I did it the last like 10 years. I think maybe 6 or 7 defensive player of the years. I think Kramer won 2, Juwan won, myself, Jail was on our defensive team. You had guys every single year, and then this year it just a row. And I think this year now, I think that's what will make this team a little more, because that you don't play hard, you just gonna come out. They don't have any team that is going to play outside of Zach. Like this, everybody has somebody that can come in. I think that's going to demand the guys that are in, and the younger guys are going to have to prove themselves, so they're going to have to play. I don't think there was a commitment to playing hard last year.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, Chris?
Yeah. I am up apparently. So kind of talking about some of your experiences while at Purdue and stuff like that. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament a little bit. Just kind of like what's it like? Just the vibe. I mean, I know from a fan's perspective, everybody's juiced up. They've got 8 TVs going with 10 different games at one time, and just kind of what's your favorite moment? And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, kind of what's the locker room life after a loss? Like, I know it's gotta be, I know the Stat Tank and I were talking pre-pod that, it's tough watching guys lose in the tournament because everybody's really emotional. It's the end of that season. I can only imagine it's tenfold for you guys in the locker room.
I mean, it's to the point where, I mean, this probably was like 2 or 3 before my daughter was born. So this is about 3 or 4. Got on the plane. I saw a guy with a Little Rock, Arkansas hoodie on, and I got I guess that. It was that serious. That's a true story. That serious. Like it just hadn't went away yet. I think even now to the point where I drive from Atlanta, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne to Atlanta all the time. And every time I pass a Yum Center, I think about every single time. There's not been a game. There's not been a time where I've driven past it and not that little layup that just circled around the rim and just dropped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a loss. I couldn't explain it because I remember. I think after my junior year, after Cincinnati, by myself. I think both times I ended up by myself. Do the media. I don't think I did media or anything like that. I couldn't say, but it's especially after that junior year hurt because we were picked to be like 11th or 12th in the league.
Yeah,
and we ended up going Kentucky next, and then we had it just was one of those games, like we had the next year. Our Little Rock, Arkansas was more just like a raveling. It was just more kind of like what is going on. We it just was like how Vince felt when he just
like
kind
surreal.
Yeah, like when like everybody just kind of like kind of even. This may sound nuts, but you can kind of even feel it. This is the Cinderella thing. Like this is like because we were up best player. He hadn't scored till half. And then he just went off for a moment, and so I never won a game, but I guess the atmosphere get back there. I played in the CBI. It's the last place in the league to the NCAA tournament. So that feeling, that there, a massive feeling. I think sometimes I think the guys could get spoiled with it, but when you have something like that, it's being in that moment, it's definitely the best tournament, best environment going to as a basketball player. You get a watch. I still have my watches or whatever.
Cool.
My kids see my watches
cool.
and there's a whole bunch of the whole week and the whole experience, even the trip out with and all of that stuff. You get to really interact, and I think it's it's big. Win or lose, you're gonna remember it forever.
Yeah, very cool. So kind of what we see on Twitter, and then all of us here are married. Most of us have kids, and just seeing your kind of schedule, being a father, working with Purdue, doing your basketball camps, and even working with BTN. Just kind of tell us like the life balance a little bit, kind of away from the basketball talk, and just talk about Rady, the dad, and the man living the life.
Yeah, I would say my wife. I call her the CEO of our family. Yeah, my wife.
Love
that.
I call her. She runs the stuff with the foundation, as far as like the behind and like you guys are aware. We have a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, and
very cool.
I call her the CEO of the family. And then
that's awesome.
my in-laws 10 minutes down the road, same road, you just go make a left. So it's like so it's because it is a lot. I'm on a flight tomorrow, so it's like I travel a week up to be whether it be down to Atlanta, I'm going to Fort Wayne or for the season. So I mean, I would say the question would be better for her. If I'm working, I'm working. But if I'm working, when I'm here, when I'm at home, that's why I try to do like stuff at nighttime. I try to be extremely day. So when I'm at, like, you will know if I'm working because you'll see me on Twitter, you'll see me talk.
Yeah, I see you at 5:30 in the morning on Twitter.
Yeah, there's days where I'm working, you're gonna know me alone a little bit, but then when I'm with my family, I'm totally locked in doing family stuff all day. So for me, it's I'm like two extremes. It's either I'm wise, like I said, my wife is like my CEO, so it's like she's my boss. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Where it just flows. It flows good.
Yeah,
it was actually during Big Ten season, my wife was pregnant. So that was getting through that.
Yeah.
Because I think I slept in my bed maybe 3 nights. So once we got through that, it's kind of like we get through anything. So
everything else is easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's a big support. She believes in one thing. She believes in what I'm doing and what we're doing and what she believes in everything that
Awesome.
we're getting involved in. It's been great to have it.
Good. And then kind of, it's been fun seeing like you and Robbie and stuff announce games and work with BTN and Robbie with ESPN and stuff like that. How hard is it, like, when you're calling a game, not to try and work to be not biased towards Purdue, if that makes sense? Like, how much do you have to keep yourself in check while you're announcing those games?
First one, it was tough because like you calling the guys by their first name and you're just like
IU versus Indiana.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's like some of them got the Kings, but like guys like Robbie is a great example because he cares. Sometimes he can come off as like against Purdue, and like because I've been in last year we would call some games from the studio. So sometimes Rob is actually calling a game, and then you're actually running to each other at halftime, and he's able to frustrations about sometimes out there in the air. So it's just kind of sometimes it's a way where he's being on Purdue so much that Purdue fans think, but I think
we've been there.
It's like a fine, about. I would say for me, it was the more I knew about the other team, be familiar with the other team, and give you stuff to talk about them because you know so much about Purdue. You can talk. I think just knowing little things about the other
trying
team.
to level that out.
Yeah, like being able to like with or something with Coach Cunningham. He played at Purdue, so there were certain things that I knew talk to that even though they were losing the game, it just was still more of a normal kind of Purdue. But it's definitely tough because like Eric Hunter's my little cousin, so it not be hard on him during the game when I want to be.
Like, what are you doing?
Know the guys that you don't want to offend anybody's family and
right.
Just that so be honest. And Paint, one thing I would say Paint is good at, and that he teaches all the guys is basketball and teaches how to call it straight. I would say from like Robbie to hearing the way he coaches DJ Bird, all these guys is you hear a little bit of it straight.
Good.
Good foundation, man.
Yeah. I think Robbie, it's almost like he calls it like he's extra critical because he expects more because he's part of the program. He's, so it's like being hard on your kids or being hard on your family, like you expect more. But then people outside go, man, why are you mad at your brother? Why are you hating on your brother? And it's like, no, I just expect more from him, So yeah,
that's a good point.
And then when you like Rob lived with Paint. Like he was there every day. He was on staff my senior year. So he was there every day. So he played, obviously. So when you know what's supposed to be going on and certain, you just sometimes it does sound a little harsh to someone that doesn't necessarily know what you know.
Yeah, 100%.
But I will say, if there's somebody that wants Purdue, I don't know if there's anybody bigger than Robbie Hummel. That's what I'll say. Just being around him, kind of like, because he came to the program at a bad time too. So also he doesn't talk like this, but I would say a lot of it still is kind of like his legacy. I think it all just kind of falls back to that baby Boilers group that really just blossomed.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of steal one of your phrases here, and we've talked a lot about your experience and your firsthand experiences, but now I'm going to try to ask a few questions for me. So just on your expertise outside looking in the current team and the current Big Ten, what do you see as far as the struggles this year? Obviously it looks like our strength's going to be the front court. Zach Edey, who knows what he can do if he gets 30 minutes a game. Mason Gill stepped up for us. Caleb First had it up and down, but I think a pretty good freshman year. And then TKR is going to come in, and he was as highly touted as what Caleb First was. So I think the questions is for our 1 through 3 spots. Like, how do you see that working out? How do you think, the new guys coming in, the freshmen, and, obviously the transfers as well, how that's going to work out?
I think with Purdue, I think one good thing about that, when you look around the league, the guard positions aren't that strong. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys you will point to that would say those are the best guards in the conference. There's a few that's come back themselves, but so that helps one. And then I like to not just speaking about. I'm just talking about Fletcher and Braden. I think it comes down to, can Fletcher make shots? If you can make shots in this league, you can play. In Dakota was dizzy half of his freshman year. He was effective his freshman. So the Maryland game and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so I think there'll be moments to be defensively. Can he keep the ball in front of him? Can they? Braden will be. I don't want to put too much on him, but I think he'll fall in line of that next defensive team, his senior year especially. I think he. Nice. I mean, maybe even his sophomore year. I figure it out. I mean, he's like 6'1" with a 6'5" wingspan. He's the type, like I asked him. I asked him. I remember this summer. I asked him. I said, "Yo, how everybody's telling you that y'all need a point guard?" And I asked him, point guard, and he wouldn't like it. He did not like it.
That's awesome.
He didn't like it. With the little chip on his shoulder, he's like I said, he's just a tough kid, not like a. But I think about the upperclassmen, like Ethan is a good defender. Ethan knows how to play basketball, can pass it, shoot it. I think he's gonna have a step forward in this progression. I think if he can just if they could figure out a way to beat offensively through the system, I think that would help him, because defensively that can really help him. I think offensively piecing it together and back into the flow of it without forcing it, not trying to get it all back in one game. I think that'll right. But I think like this reminds me of, like I said, group like this, where I think back to my junior year, it was they have the big man with AJ Hammonds, and they don't have any guards, and I was a guard today, had to answer those questions. Like at me, same question you asked me, and I'm a guard at the time on the team, so I get having that locker room, but in the Big Ten, it's a make shots league, and the guys they do have, unless they're but they're 40% 3-point shooters. They can make shots and
everybody can do it. And I feel like having that spread out amongst that team where you're not relying on one dude to do everything, I think is going to be huge.
Yeah,
exactly. Then I like a plug and chug system. Like more, you got a shooter, you got a slasher, you got a point guard. Nobody's really going to average more than 3 or 4 assists. Like it's not like the point guard that normally flows, paints, yelling, move. It's something where you know how to play that in that system.
Yeah. So obviously we dropped off a little bit on the radar in the national sense, losing the guys that we lost with, obviously Jaden getting drafted, Trevion leaving, a couple of transfers. Where do you have us in the Big Ten, and who's the top 5 if we're not in it? Like, where do you see that kind of sorting out?
In any given order, this is no particular order. I would go Iowa, IU, Purdue, Iowa, IU. I'm put after watching Michigan State play tonight, man, I go Michigan, and then Iowa, IU play. I would go Illinois in there. I would have before tonight, I would have put Michigan State in there, but I know you look
I
at
didn't look at it. Was Michigan State rough?
No, I mean, they were down at half by 6. The lead in the game.
Wow.
They didn't take the lead in the game 11 or 12 minutes. Then, just kind of how you just pull away. But
Right,
they
yeah.
didn't really pull away.
They won based on talent, not on.
Yeah, they didn't win the game until the 5-minute mark of the second half. Maybe the 8-minute mark, like 12.
Ouch.
Oh, it was ugly. It was a bad. For Greg, like they could win a low Division I conference.
Yeah.
But it surprised me a little bit for Michigan State to effort, but I think they're gonna figure some things out. I don't know if I put Illinois in there right now. I'm not as high on Illinois as everybody else because it's the first time I guess I'll talk about it. But I don't trust that Coleman Hawkins is going to go from 5. He has a skill level and a talent. He could do it, but once the Big Ten physicality started, he ended up seeing 6-7 minutes a game. And Brad Underwood is that just thrives on toughness. And I don't know. When you look at
I don't think he fits that mold.
Yeah, I just don't know. And then Mayer,
he seemed like a star recruit, not a system recruit.
Yeah, exactly. And like the transfers they got coming in, I don't see level just isn't. When you look at guys, then they say, "Oh, this is gonna be their best player." They didn't stay in school. Well, this guy had 20 in one game, then 2 the next, then 4 the next, and 6. And I was that player at one time too. I kind of. It's tough for you to go for one guy, and they're gonna want that from Terrence Shannon. I think he has a talent to do it, but again, consistent. Mayer engaged. Sometimes he can get disengaged with that Baylor. I think offensively they struggled. Their exhibition game, it had a moment where they struggled well. So I think about an Iowa team. I think Iowa could win the league. I think they're tough with their wings. I don't understand how guys. I don't know how guys rank teams, but when you have an All-American, it gives you a chance. And then Mason is a 40, 50, 90 R. I think with Caleb first, I think they have the best 4-man. We look, and I think they make shots around. They make shots around them. They don't turn the ball over crazy. They're gonna get a chance. When you control the glass, you get yourself a chance. I think Indiana is gonna. I just don't. But Indiana is just. Even watching the exhibition game, Race Thompson makes 3 threes, but consistently, Hushapino is more of a player than he is a shooter. I don't know if their shooting is going to match up to what their need around Trey. So I think if I had to choose 3 that to narrow it down to for the Big Ten championship, I would go Purdue, IU.
Okay. And I will give the stat tank a little bit of credit on this one, because we've kind of had this conversation that IU's never lacked talent, but I think it's definitely IU. There's so much power or light shining on them at this point. It's kind of a show me. It's kind of they just got to do it. I mean,
and I think it's starting to go to their head a little bit. I think they're starting. I mean, they've shut down being able to go to practices media wise or whatever. I think the build focus on them. I think now the guys, because with that too, with a campus like I to it, you can get engulfed in it real quick, and it happened back when with Yogi and those dudes. It got ugly quick. So I think this year would be a big show history they had with those guys there, where you look back to the Northwestern game, they gotta go being, they get suspended. So it's gonna be interesting to see who's going to. I think stuff like that really matters. Like chemistry that matters on the team.
Oh yeah.
And having guys in there and done it, I think that's why I will be a little bit better than Michigan or.
Yep.
So you see one of those top three being a national contender as well, or maybe all three, or if not, who's your early like national title pick? Like if you had to put some money in Vegas right now on somebody, who would it be?
I had to put some money in. If I had to, if a gun was to my head, I would probably North Carolina.
Yeah,
North Carolina.
that team is nasty with everything they've got coming back.
That point guard is crazy. He was really good last year, and
yeah, I think even like Pete Nance. Pete Nance is gonna be better at the four. Having to bang, worry about getting fouls. I think he'll shoot it better. I mean, I would say North Carolina, but if I had to pick a Big Ten team, picking the Big Ten, I'm a strong believer that the Big Ten is recruited to win the Big Ten, not to win a national championship. In games in the Big Ten, you have to compete. You have to recruit at a type of compete in the Big Ten. Like I think a team like Maryland last season, because of their guard, won a game into the tournament, but because they weren't built to be a big like the bigs and what like that's why Michigan was struggling in the Big Ten, but then 16 stuff. I would say I think Purdue could get there. It just being on point guard play. I think IU. You say I think IU has to be in that conversation because they have all American come down to shooting. I think Illinois by that time, I think if I'm picking Big Ten teams, I think Illinois could inch their way in there because of their wing play. We have a strong wings, and if their point Sky Clark, if he comes to play, I just worry about them rebound because having 12 rebounds in a Big Ten game consistently. I think that's tough this year because there's so many question marks across. So I don't know, but I think every country. I think it's one of those years across the country where it's wide open.
I feel like parity from top to bottom is going to be pretty close. I mean, probably outside maybe 1, 2, 3, probably 4 to 35 is going to be kind of close. Any given team will lose any given night, and I think that's been kind of the trend the last 10 years. But
So my last question kind of stems from hearing you talk about it on your pods, and we also had on our last episode we all drafted our all-time, not all-time, but basically 1990 and on top 5 starting 5 for Purdue. So I luckily ran away with the poll. I somehow ended up with Big Dog
I want to
and Jaden and JJ, and I got Brian Cardinal and who else did I end with? Blue Jack is my point.
he rigged it. Don't let him talk to you like that. He rigged it from the beginning.
They passed on some dudes, and I got a really, really stacked starting 5. But what's your like if you pick from 90 on, what's your starting 5? And if you want to make it a little more interesting, pick 4 guys that you'd want to play with of any era. Put yourself anywhere on the floor, but pick any 4 guys around you who you're going to have around you.
I'm gonna go different because that's a lot of guys. I'm gonna give you 5 Katie's era to play against 5 guys I take from Coach Payne era.
Okay.
I like it.
So I will go because that was before Katie's. So I will go Troy Lewis.
Yeah.
I'm going Steve Scheffler.
Okay.
Wait, Scheffler, that's 3. I'm going Konzo. I need a leader. That's 4. Brad Miller.
Okay.
Brad Miller.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna take those 5 against. I'm gonna go Etwan. Okay. And Jawan, especially today.
Yeah.
Playing this one. I don't normally put myself in these games, but I won't play in this game. I'll put myself in this game.
Yes, sir.
I love it.
This was tough. Because you also got to try and win the game.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if each one could play with certain guys.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some type of flow and continuity that has to be there too.
I'm going Dakota. It was Dakota or
Okay.
Klein.
Okay.
It was Dakota.
And so you're gonna try. Are you gonna be trying to lock up Troy Lewis or Quanzo?
Nah,
who you calling?
I'm guarding Big Dog.
Big Dog.
Oh, there
Okay.
you go.
Let's go.
Love it.
All
He's
right.
trying to Lewis. I'm gonna put Dakota on Konzo. I'm gonna go Big. I'm gonna go AJ. AJ go Steve Scheffler, and I'm gonna go Juwan and Brad Miller.
You've thought about this, dude. I love it.
Oh yeah, we're gonna win that game.
Oh, Russ.
Cool.
Russ got his
Well,
answer and left.
Well, anyway, Ray, we don't want to take up too much more of your time, man. We've asked you a lot of questions, but man, we really appreciate you coming on. This was a blast.
Yes.
We've
you so
all
much.
loved getting to hear your side of things, talking about those little tidbits that maybe like, the media doesn't get to hear, or maybe just Purdue fans, just your, from the players' side, is really cool, man. And just the stories that you've shared. So we really appreciate your time and just want to thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh no problem. I appreciate you guys having me on anytime throughout the season. Let me know, because most times if I'm not in the studio, I'll just be chilling like this. So just let me know.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it.
All right. Russ might be making his return. Let's see. Drum roll.
Well, why don't we go ahead and wrap up with our Iowa predictions, and maybe through that we can kind of talk about Iowa a bit. How's that sound?
Yeah,
that works. Yeah. I'll just go ahead and start us off. So I think the first quarter is going to be a big component into this game. I know that we've been a fourth quarter team, but I think the way that this game starts is going to be really important. But with the, with Iowa's offensive struggles, even though our defense is definitely hurting right now in terms of depth, I still think that we can pull it away. So I'm going to go with like a 31-20. Because I think that, our defense is still going to struggle a little bit, but I'm going to go with a 31-20. Purdue.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably. I think Maccabee has another 100-yard rushing game. I think that we kind of solidified the run a little bit because Frank and his amazing stat work here shows that they're the number one coverage team in D1. So I think that we throw the ball effective. I could see almost like a quick short game style of a passing game where like Aiden might throw 45 passes and he averages 8 yards a pass, something like that. Just enough to keep it honest, some chucks downfield. But I think Maccabee and I think Dylan's supposed to be back this week, if I heard that correctly. I think
last update was
I think those two. I mean, look at some of the teams we've ran against in Maccabee's 3 100-yard rushing games. They've been against pretty good defenses. So that said, I think it's kind of in that same boat, like 31-14, 35-20, 35-17, somewhere in that kind of area. I think it's close probably through like the third quarter, and then Purdue kind of runs away.
You guys are predicting a lot of points against the second best defense in D1. So to kind of run through what Iowa's done, they're holding their opponents to 4 yards per play, which is third in D1. 2.8 rushing yards allowed per carry. That's good for third in D1. 5.6 pass yards allowed, which is also good for third in D1. That is slightly skewed, though. And they had some early games where they really beat up on some bad teams defensively. They do have a lot of depth on defense. They're probably their strength is their linebacking core. I mean, they're just rotating great players in with great players. On the offensive side, not much to say. They're the second or third worst offense in D1 right now. I think there's one major question to be asked about this game, and that's how healthy is our secondary. We know Chris Jefferson's not coming back. As of today, Jamari and Corey still have not practiced. That being said, Iowa's best receiver, no surprise, is a tight end. He's really good at catching passes across the middle. He's not very fast, so I think we can have our linebackers cover him. I think if one of those two guys play, I predict a Purdue win, but I'm thinking something along the lines of 17-10. I think this defense is so good. We're still not 100% health-wise, but I think that given all that, we can still pull out the W. Be really curious to see how our offense fares against such a highly touted defense as well. But if neither of those guys play, I actually think it'll be something more like 10-7.
I will say, wasn't their
It's
defense
good
highly touted
defenses.
last year?
Yeah, their defense was highly touted last year. We also had a second round pick in David Bell.
Right, and probably like a
Um,
third round pick in Charlie Jones, but whatever.
But what's interesting when you look at Iowa is they are much worse at catching the ball against zone coverage than they are man. So I
That
wonder,
makes,
it's fascinating.
that's,
It's fascinating to see all their numbers drop against man coverage.
is it like a considerable drop or?
Yeah,
That's
considerable. I think
weird.
I've been looking more at yards per catch,
Yeah.
yards per target versus yards per
Yeah.
game because that's very subjective to how many passes and
Right.
whatnot. But everything
Yeah.
drops. Everything drops when you look at zone versus man.
And I will
So I'll be
say
curious
that
to see if we increase.
I'll say that I picked a little bit of a higher score for Purdue just because I think we just get a lot of possessions because their offense is so bad.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is we've been sitting and letting that loss against Wisconsin sting for a couple of weeks, and they just won. So I think from
Well, hey, welcome back.
mindset.
Hey, and what we say after the Wisconsin game? I'd hate to be Iowa.
I'd hate to be Iowa right
Yep.
now. And so, just a brief kind of summary on how Spencer Petras is doing. It's his worst season he's ever
Shocker.
had. 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, passer rating of 67. Likes to throw the ball short. Not very many passes behind the line of scrimmage. Only 15 behind the line of scrimmage, and only 20 beyond the 20-yard line. So they really love the short passes across the middle. Not great at running the ball. They kind of have a two-headed monster at running back, but neither are effective at running the ball. So it's going to be a really interesting game. One thing is for sure is it's going to be weird, but they are one of the best defenses at forcing turnovers. So our big keys to winning are, I think, to play zone a little bit more than we have in the past and to not turn the ball over.
Yeah.
I think that if we can take care of the ball, play zone,
I definitely
do some
think we
trick
get defensive points.
defensive points, yeah, a nice pick six would be great.
Yeah.
But I think if we can take care of the ball, steal a couple possessions, and get some of that Brom trick play we're used to, we can pull out the W.
Yeah.
So, Russ, since you've returned, why don't you go ahead and share your prediction for Iowa this weekend?
Yeah, so I expect it to be a very game again. Used to, but I do seem to under the Brom especially just get locked into these back and forth. Who's gonna have the ball last is gonna win kind of battles, and I think that's what we're in store for here. I think that you could see the game start pretty slow. I think both sides are going to try to establish the run and run the ball because that's what they prefer to do. And I think that.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
what a cliffhanger.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah.
And he's back.
I think, go ahead, Russ. Just continue where you left off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Establish the run.
Left off. So, yeah, I think both sides are going to establish a run early. But then I think that, you could see a real basketball game break out in the second half, and it's going to come down to, who has the ball last to hit that last field goal or punch it in at the end to win the game. And I think that, with the home crowd, I'd give us the edge. That's normally what you do. If the game's a pick 'em, you kind of ride with the home team. And luckily, we're the home team this week. So I think that you're going to see something like a 31-28, 34-31 kind of finish. I know that early this season, Iowa didn't score the ball, but they're figuring some things out there. And, I think that that's what's going to end up happening. You might see like a halftime score of like 10-7, and then it end up being, in the low 30s, high 20s. So
we are seeing them coming off of their best offensive performance of the season. So
against
Northwestern, but yeah,
maybe not. I mean, they played better against Northwestern. They did some pretty
guys.
bad
Indiana State beat Northern Alabama by 3 in overtime. Okay,
hey.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But I think when looking at Iowa on paper, they're by far their biggest weakness is their offensive line, particularly in pass blocking. They're actually ranked as the second worst pass protection team, according to PFF.
All of the sacks.
About 1 out of 10 of their passes result in a sack, and 1 out of 3 pressures results in a sack. total 93 pressures given up this season. So what's
That's
interesting though is that
incredible.
when Petrus has time, he's actually better on passes where he has 2.5 seconds or more to throw the
Is
ball.
he though?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, but
He's a quarterback
the
that's better with more time to pass the ball. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, but the vast majority of their sacks allowed come from the right tackle position. So they're really weak at that position. They don't
So
have a whole
Jack
lot of
Sullivan's
depth
going to be lining up on the right.
there. Well, I mean, we shuffle our D line around.
Well,
quite a
yeah,
bit.
that's true.
I was
One
thinking.
time it could be Jack Sullivan. The next time it could be someone else. Yeah.
I was thinking Branson Dean's going to get some
Yeah.
pressure. Maybe Jalen Graham as well, or maybe we see Yanni out there. Who knows? But,
Yeah,
I
we
think it's
could
going to
see
be an
more
exciting
pressures
game.
coming.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Cool.
Damon, do you want to do the honors?
Yeah. Thank you guys for all coming out tonight. Thank you for tuning into the Boiler Express podcast. This was a really fun one. Episode 10, we got to have Raphael Davis join us, which was a blast. Just getting to hear about his experiences. And, he was such a pivotal part of that early 2010s Purdue squad and really turning things around, which is just, so really, really cool. We were all honored to have him on here tonight and get to talk to him and ask him lots of questions and just pick his brain about everything. And yeah, we're gonna hopefully pull out a win against Iowa this week and just march on towards Indy. That's the focus. I know these guys take it one game at a time, but us as fans, we don't have to do that. We can just look on to December and Indy, and so that's what we're hoping for. So yeah, beat the Hawkeyes, go Boilers.
Also, real quick, sorry, this just came across Twitter. House of Metrics has us ranked 20 in his preseason poll based on his metrics.
Okay.
Basketball, right?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean,
really, really early preseason football poll. Like,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
just making sure.
I know they're ridiculous, but damn.
Just making sure.
Sorry, I had to interrupt there real quick because I wanted to throw that.
No,
in.
yeah, it's fine. It just threw off the entire flow of it all. But anyways, I'm just kidding. But like I was saying, guys, thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it. And if you're listening to this afterwards, recording on your way to work or anything like that, we appreciate you listening, checking us out. We also have we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify now, which is great. And we're on Restream as well. So check us out on any of those platforms, and we hope to see you guys in the next one.
yes,
Boiler
sir.
up.
Boiler up. Hammer down.